hope you're all having a good time. I know for myself, I'm feeling a lot looser than I felt, first thing Monday morning, and that's kind of one of the purposes of the whole week is to just relax a little bit and think about where we are now, where we've been, where we're going. This is going to present kind of the theme of the purpose of the whole thing in this keynote talk. And so, without any other words, I'm going to introduce Jack Newcombe.
And I'm going to start off by playing a clip because it's easier that way.
Mr. Pitts. It's a rather unfortunate name. Mr. Pitts, where are you? Mr. Pitts, will you open your hymnal, page 542? Read the first stanza of the poem you find there.
Did the virgins to make much of time?
Yes, that's the one. Somewhat appropriate, isn't it?
Gather ye rosebuds while ye may. Old time is still a-flying. And this same flower that smiles today, tomorrow will be dying.
Thank you, Mr. Pitts. Gather ye rosebuds while ye may. The Latin term for that sentiment is carpe diem. Now, who knows what that means? Carpe diem. That's to seize the day. Very good, Mr. Meeks. Meeks. Another unusual name. Seize the day. Gather ye rosebuds while ye may. Why does the writer use these lines? Because he's in a hurry. No! Ding! Thank you for playing anyway. Because we are food for worms, lads. Because believe it or not, each and every one of us in this room is one day going to stop breathing, turn cold, and die. I'd like you to step forward over here and peruse some of the faces from the past. You've walked past them many times. I don't think you've really looked at them. They're not that different from you, are they? Same haircuts, full of hormones, just like you. Invincible, just like you feel. The world is their oyster. They believe they're destined for great things, just like many of you. Their eyes are full of hope, just like you. Did they wait till it was too late to make from their lives even one iota of what they were capable? Because you see, gentlemen, these boys are now fertilizing daffodils. But if you listen real close, you can hear them whisper their legacy to you. Go on, lean in. Listen. You hear it?
When I was thinking about what to say today, I reviewed the last two keynotes that I gave from the previous years, and what I noticed was that when I was talking, they're very different, and they're very specific to that group at that specific time. And I looked at this group and this time, and what I thought was appropriate for this group to hear. And I thought about a lot of the stuff that we talked about this week, about emotions. And the first emotion that came to my mind was that of love and appreciation. It was a love for all of you, an appreciation for what you do. This sentiment, oftentimes we experience it with death, whether it's a tragedy in our lives or the notion, the concept of our own mortality. And we think about that. And when I think about that, one of the things that I've learned is to express appreciation, express gratitude more often for the people in my life that I appreciate. So I do want to take that time to do that now. I have tremendous gratitude for all of you and all that you do. I have tremendous appreciation for your willingness to come here and to buy in to what we're doing. I realize that the way that I do things here is different, and the things that I demand of you are different and demanding. And I acknowledge that, and I appreciate everyone here and their willingness to be here and that choice that they make. I appreciate the acceptance that you all have of yourselves, of each other, of creators of this group, of the business that my dad and Marianne Sugawara and Sheila and Melissa and Margot and Marianne Velman built. And I use them because when you get close to two decades, you get mentioned in that vein. Yesterday, it went unnoticed, but it was Sheila's 18-year anniversary.
Yay! Is that first time around or second?
Second time around.
What
So
about-
add 3 years, first time around.
You're 21.
21.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Those people built the foundation for this company so that we can have the opportunities that we have today. And it should be acknowledged, and I do appreciate it. I realize that I have flaws and warts and things that I need to work on. A lot of things. I thought about the movie Silver Linings Playbook. And there's a scene, I never read the book, but there's a scene where Jennifer Lawrence's character had a tragedy in her life. Her husband died. And she coped with that by living a promiscuous lifestyle. And she's talking to Bradley Cooper, the co-star, and she says, there's a part of me that's dirty and sloppy and slutty or whatever, and I'm okay with that. And I accept that. And can you do the same? And I think that what we do is we recognize that there are positives of all of us, and there are areas that we want to work on and that we want to develop, and we accept that. And I appreciate everybody accepting my flaws and each other's flaws as a group. I appreciate everybody working together as a team. I know it's hard. I know we all have individual goals, individual lives inside and outside of work. I know that we work for different bosses, whether it's me, Dave, Melissa, Rick. I recognize that. Different situations, and I appreciate everybody coming together as a team as much as we can. I do appreciate that. One thing that I noticed about this group that I love, and I know like you're not supposed to use the word love in like business talks, but that's how I felt, is that I think everybody in this room has a chip on their shoulder. And I think that that's a good thing. There's a certain edge. I think that some of you in this room believe in yourselves almost as much as I believe in you. And that's cool. It's cool to be around. I mean, I haven't said that before. I mean, this is a unique group. I think that this group has something to prove. If you look at the goal wall, I think there's a lot of evidence there of we're all aspiring to improve, aspiring to be better, as opposed to just accepting the status quo, accepting the norm, accepting the easy route. I think that everybody in this room, at one point in their life, somebody didn't believe in them. And that fuels that fire to want to prove that person wrong. We talked about it on the failure resumes. I heard examples. I have my own examples. People in our lives where they made a mistake. We think that they made a mistake. Maybe they didn't at the time, but that doesn't matter. We have something to prove as a group. And I think that that drives that fire, that heart, that passion that I see in all of you, day in and day out, in what you do. The fact that Dave goes to a copy editing seminar. The fact that Pete takes an extra class. Brandon works tirelessly I get an email from Catherine at 11 o'clock on a Thursday, because she couldn't shut the alarm off because I didn't lock the door because she was working. I see it. I see it every day, and I could mention everybody. So the first emotion I wanted to express was love and appreciation. But there's another emotion. I do this dramatic water sip thing, so deal. There's another emotion, and that's one of fear. So as I'm going through this, as I was going back over the keynotes from last year, I pulled it up on YouTube, and I didn't think anybody watched it, and there were like 95 views. I thought that was weird. And then I saw the thumbs up, thumbs down, and I got 1 thumb up, which was me, and 5 thumbs downs. And I saw this last night as I'm practicing. And honestly, it shook me. It made me afraid. I got that negative criticism, and I thought, by internet trolls, and I thought, how am I supposed to go out and give a good talk tomorrow when 5 people gave me the thumbs down? I know it's stupid and irrational, but emotionally, I was afraid. I was afraid to come out here this morning because of those 5 dislikes or whatever. And I think it's about overcoming those fears and really dealing with reality on reality's terms. This last Sunday, I watched a documentary by Alex Gibney, who's a known documentarian, and it's called The Armstrong Lie. It's about Lance Armstrong. And he followed Lance in 2009, and he was going to make a documentary about Lance's comeback. That's what his intentions were. He ended up making a documentary about the Armstrong Lie, which is fairly interesting. But one of the things he said was, we wanted to believe Lance Armstrong. We wanted to believe it. We wanted to believe that he could overcome cancer and come back and be the best cyclist in the world, and that he was American. We wanted to believe it. Did you know that the top 3 finishers of every stage of all 7 Tour de France's tested positive for performance-enhancing drugs, except for Lance Armstrong? We ignored that. We wore the Livestrong bracelets, and we wanted to believe. And it's not black and white. There was a lot of good there. We had reason to believe, okay? But we were complicit in that lie. We all bought in. Today, I want to talk about that fear and talk about reality so that we don't buy in to something that's not accurate. The reality of the situation of the newspaper industry, of Creators Syndicate as a newspaper syndicate, is real, in the sense that every week when we get a sales report from Sheila that is a negative number, that means that our revenue number is going down by that amount. That's the reality of the situation. I want everybody to understand that, because I think it's important to understand what we're dealing with. And that sort of negative information is not what you want to hear, but it's what we need to hear. And I think that that's going to cause, at least for me, some fear, some anxiety. And what do we do about that? How do we deal with that? I think step 1 is understanding and accepting the realities of the situation. I think step 2 is understanding the fear that it's going to cause and what's driving that. And I think that there are 2 components of the fear. First one is the fear of change. We're doing something a certain way, calling on newspaper editors, editing copy, dealing with columnists. That's what we know. That's what we know. Fear of change. It's that fear of doing something differently. There's a old adage that if you put a bunch of beavers up on top of a skyscraper, what are they going to do? Does anybody know? They're going to look for wood to build a dam, because that's what beavers do. So I think that there is a certain inertia and a certain fear of change, fear of the unknown. And the second thing is, and this is a common theme this week, is a fear of failure. That fear of, well, this is what I know, so if I try something new and I get pushed out of my comfort zone, I might not be as good at it, or I might fail, or it might not go that well. It's understandable. We have to face it. We have to face it. As I said before, the biggest obstacle towards new creative endeavors is that fear of failure. That's why we did the failure resume. That's why we talked about it. That's why I'm starting this talk by giving you the realities of the situation. I want us to face it. I want us to face it head on and understand it and work on it together. But I'm going to tell you something. There's a bigger risk out there that you should be more afraid of. Cause you more fear. And that's the notion that it's riskier to do nothing. It's riskier not to take a risk. I want that to settle in because it's counterintuitive. It's actually riskier not to go try something, not to get out of your comfort zone. I have two examples. One is Facebook. Facebook has plastered all over the place. I'm going to quote it exactly. Nothing is riskier than not taking a risk. What does that mean? Nothing is riskier than not taking a risk. I'll give you another example. Arguably the greatest band of all time would not have happened had these guys not taken a risk. So in Liverpool, there is a quarry or a mine or something like that. I think it's a quarry. And everybody was supposed to go to school and learn how to mine and go to this quarry, and that was it. And it was a set job, and it was a good solid pay. And obviously, George Harrison and John Lennon decided not to go work at this place and go pursue music. They had teachers telling them, "You're crazy. You shouldn't be doing this. You should go get the safe gig over here." Not only would we have missed out on the Beatles, which we all know, but what you don't know is a few years later, that quarry shut down. So everybody that went down that path, of the safe path, was out of work with no skills that they could apply anywhere else. It's riskier not to take a risk. I wanted to show that clip, and I want to show another clip from the same movie. It's Dead Poets Society. And this is about something else. It's about understanding the appreciation that we have for each other, and we talked about that, and understanding the fear and the realities of the situation, and then sort of sitting back and thinking, okay, well, it's riskier not to take a risk. So what do we do? How do we apply that? We're going to watch a clip.
We don't read and write poetry because it's cute. We read and write poetry because we are members of the human race. And the human race is filled with passion. Medicine, law, business, engineering, these are noble pursuits and necessary to sustain life. But poetry, beauty, romance, love, these are what we stay alive for. To quote from Whitman, "O me, O life of the questions of these recurring, of the endless trains of the faithless, of cities filled with the foolish, what good amid these, O me, O life? Answer, that you are here, that life exists and identity, that the powerful play goes on and you may contribute a verse. That the powerful play goes on and you may contribute a verse." What will your verse be?
Passion, okay? Think about, that's what I wanted to take away from that clip. Obviously they talk about poetry, and that's a good creative expression. But it's not just about poetry. It's about doing something, about building something, about creating something. I'm sure that was a motivating factor for the people who have been here for 20 years plus to build something, to have something that they can look back on and say, I did that. And I think that for us, looking forward, for the next 10, 20 years, 5 years, 3 years, is asking ourselves, what do we want to build? What do we want to build? We can look at what's feasible, the existing business, the talent, relationships with the talent, our own personal core competencies. Those are good. Those are good starting points. But I don't think that's what it's about. I think it's about the people in the room. I think that our biggest asset isn't our contracts or our relationships or anything like that. I think our assets are our people. Everybody in this room. If you think back to the Happy documentary, there was this notion of flow, okay? And the idea of doing something and feeling good and not really thinking about anything else. And you know, when Rick talked about walking around Georgetown getting 7 A's in 7 classes and writing for the paper and really just, and this is for free or he paid to go to school, and thinking just, this is, I feel good about myself. I think about it when the alarm goes off at 5:15 and we have a full click class and I pop out of bed because it feels good. I don't think about anything else. Now, I don't love the term flow because flow has a connotation of ease. And I'll tell you, waking up at 5 a.m. is awful. Like, there's nothing easy about it. It's terrible. It doesn't get any easier. It's probably worse every day. I'm sure getting 7 A's wasn't easy. But it's about how you feel. If anybody's been through training with me, which many of you have, I always ask the question, what is your biggest resource? And the answer is
Time.
very good. Flow is when you forget about your most valuable resource. You don't care. You're willing to spend it almost endlessly because you're doing something that you love, that feels right, that feels good to you. And I think for us as a group, it's about finding that flow. And I think a better term for that is your focus. So when you're focused on what you're doing so that you're not thinking about this resource time that you're expending, where it's a good use of this resource, that's when you feel the true flow. That's when you forget about anything else that's going on. Because that's what these clips are talking about. They're talking about time, your number one resource. And if you can find something that you can do day in and day out where you don't think about the time, that's what we're doing. Now, the difficult thing is to do it as a group. Step one is to look individually. What is my flow? What is my focus? Where do I not think about other things? And then mapping those out as a collective group, seeing where the intersections are, and then working towards those things together. That's truly flow as a group. Speaking of being part of a group, I think that along the same lines of love and fear and passion to build, to create something, to write a verse, to leave a mark, is this need for belonging. Maybe it's because, maybe that's the reason I preach team and belonging and all that, is because I do believe that we have that desire. And I think it's a positive one. And as that applies to the business world, we talk about the word culture often. And I think that culture is an okay word. But I think, and I've said this before, I think stated culture is just that. It's just stated. I don't think that's what is really a motivating factor for us. I think it's more about what we believe. What we believe. Our belief systems are going to trump culture. And the reason is, when times are tough, when we're afraid, we're not going to think back to some words that we wrote on a wall. We're going to revert back to our belief system. What do we believe in? And I think about what I look for when I hire people. I look for two things. What are they?
Heart.
Heart.
Yes, brains and heart, exactly. And I think everybody in this room, the brains one is easy. It's a dime a dozen in terms of intelligence. Not everybody in this room, I'm saying in the world. It's trying to find that heart, trying to find the people with that passion, with the chip on their shoulder, something to prove. And the reason why I think step one is so important, and you all know this about me, about finding good people, finding the right people, is because when you have the right people and you ask them to do your best, to do their best is going to be good enough. And I think that this group of people, when I ask you to do your best is good enough. The second thing, and this is critical, so you get like-minded people who share a common belief system. The second thing that we need as a group is success. We need measurable success. Because what you have is you have a belief system with like-minded people that share those beliefs, which leads to best practices and a way of doing things, which leads to measurable success, which then validates the belief system. And it's a positive cycle. I think our practices now are positive. I think that it's a strong work ethic, coming in early, staying late, all the time. I think it's an attention to detail. I think it's a lack of ego, but we're full of pride. I think that my challenge for everybody is to start to think about that measurable success. And I'm going to say, think big. My wife Allison works in public interest in LA. And she's on a task force for education in California. She's like leading this task force. And she's dealing with people from Sacramento and LA, and it's all about education in California. And she set up a strategic plan for 6 or 12 months or something. And somebody wrote in an email, somebody else who's on this task force, this plan seems a little bold and ambitious. And Allison read the email to me and was very frustrated. And I said, you should write back, are there any other plans worth pursuing? And I would think, what I challenge you is, what are our bold and ambitious plans? Where we can get that measurable success that will validate our belief system in each other. I want to take a step back and talk about belief, what it is. I think that belief is knowing without proof. That's how I look at it. I believe in this group. We don't have the measurable success per se in the new businesses today. I know we don't have it that I want it. I know we don't have it that anybody else wants it. Because I see the fire and the passion in all of you. But I believe we can get there. I do. The film we watched last night, Slumdog Millionaire, it's a great movie, fun story. They talk about the notion of destiny, of fate. Answer D, it is written. Again, I think that there's no fate but what we make for ourselves. Keeping with the poetry vein, men at sometimes are masters of their fates. The fault, dear Brutus, is not in our stars, but in ourselves that we are underlings. That's Shakespeare. We have another poem upstairs. I am the master of my fate. I'm the captain of my ship. Invictus. We make our own fate. Nobody's going to make it for us. Whatever this group wants to do, we can do it together. And faith, having that belief, the backbone of that is trust. And trust gets built up through success. It gets built up through time. and through success over and over again, whether it's a personal relationship or in a business. And it's about trusting each other and trusting the process and going through it together. Now, I can tell you that I believe in this specific group, and that I believe that this group can actually do bold and ambitious things. I do. I also believe in the human spirit. I think that stuff that I talk about, the conscious mind and the subconscious mind, I don't think my subconscious mind would allow me to have that belief if I didn't have data somewhere that backed up that thought, that this group, this specific group, can do bold and ambitious things. It's not a matter of ability, it's a matter of will. And that's when it goes back to that chip on your shoulder. You know, I'm not going to be up here and say, I don't believe in you, prove me wrong, or throw people against the wall. I'm saying we're in this together. We're like-minded people. We're working towards getting some measurable success. And so that's so we're sort of going from the big and kind of drilling down. And this is a bit, bold and ambitious goal. It's a big thing, kind of nebulous. So what do we do on a day in and day out basis? Life and business and all of this is a game of inches. It is. It's about little decisions that we do every single day that gets us a little closer to that goal. Think about it like a jug, like a big glass jug that you can see in, or jar. And all we're doing is we're putting a pebble in that jug. Every day that you do something, you're putting in a pebble. So at the beginning, it's clank, 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 clank. It doesn't feel like you're doing anything. Maybe you do a post on Didion's Bible. Maybe you distribute an ebook. And it's just one pebble going in. But if you keep doing that, inch by inch, pebble by pebble, sooner or later, this jug's going to start to fill up. Jeff Bezos, the Amazon guy, had a good quote. He said, complaining is not a strategy. So I wanted to tell you the realities of the situation, not to complain about it, but just to face it and think about, okay, well, what do we do going forward? I think we have the horses. I do. I believe that we do. And thinking back to this game of inches and our failure resumes, a lot of those failures could easily have been successes. One minor thing here, one minor thing there, maybe it changes. Maybe it changes. Thinking about those inches on a day in and day out basis of what we have in front of us is the takeaway going forward. Of what are those inches to get us towards that measurable success day in and day out so that we can validate our belief system. I almost made it through without a sports analogy, and I don't count the Armstrong Live one. That's one. But there was a guy that I worked with. His name is David Fox, and he is a managing director at Goldman Sachs in Atlanta. And he's also an Olympic gold medalist. And I talked to him, and there's another guy. His name is Bill Pilczek, Pilczuk. And Dave and Bill in 1996 went out for the Olympic team. Top two make it. Dave swam a 22.50. Bill swam a 22.55. So not 5/10 of a second, 5/100ths of a second. David Fox goes to the Olympics, wins a gold medal. He's working at Goldman Sachs, making millions of dollars. Bill, 5/100ths of a second, doesn't go to the Olympics, doesn't win a gold medal. I don't know what he's doing. I talked to Dave about it, David Fox. And I said, that was a close call in the Olympic trials, no? And he said, I put myself in a position every single day, putting in work every single day. He didn't use the analogy, but filling up that jug. So that when race day came, when it mattered most, and it was time to get that measured success, this guy could swim the race of his life, and I could have an off day, and I'd still beat him. It's not about the race day, it's about those game of inches all along the way. Now, there are a couple different ways to motivate in terms of competition and creating that sort of competition within ourselves, competition with the people who didn't believe in us, that caused that chip on our shoulder. And I think looking for ways to find that motivation is important, and there's no easy way to do that. I mean, it's different for everybody. But this idea of love and appreciation for everybody, and this understanding of fear, and understanding of what we're dealing with as a group, as a unit, and that belief that we can overcome it, but that desire to get some measured success and to actually capture it and realize it and know that we can do it as a group if we work together, if we focus on those inches day in and day out. I had, I'll get you out of here on this one. Heather was leaving, and she asked me in passing, and she said, do you have any advice? And I thought of something I had heard. This was Sarah Silverman, the comedian, and she was talking to, actually Jerry Seinfeld told the story about her, but she said that she has friends, and comedy friends, and creative friends, and they say, I'm thinking about writing, I'm thinking about doing, I'm thinking about, and she just cuts them off, and she says, you're never going to do it. And it's that notion of, I'm thinking about versus actually doing it. Don't think. Just go do it. Go get that inch, whatever it is in front of you. And that's essentially what I told Heather. Bias towards action. Don't judge. Don't think about anything else. Just do what you want to do. Because the realities of the situation are that time is our number one resource. I believe in this group. I think that this group can move forward and can get some of these measured success. I think it's about finding what is your personal guitar lesson, to circle back to what we talked about on Monday. What is your personal passion? What is your personal flow? What is your personal focus? Share it, talk, communicate as a group. How do we get on the same page together so that we can start to work towards these things and get those inches? And I'll tell you this, thinking ahead, whether it's your senior citizen self or 5 years from now or 10 years from now, when you make a decision of what do I want to do, think about what that person would say. What's that person going to tell you what to do? What's that person going to say? Hey, you should have done this. Hey, you should probably pursue that. And I'm telling you right now, this group as a unit, getting on the same page, looking back, this time you're going to look back on it as your glory days. So that's it. I really believe in you guys as a group. I think we can do great things. And I think we've done a lot of great things. And with that, I want to take a look back on some of the things that we've done.